Good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone doing today on Transformational Thursday? And as always, it's another great day to be alive and another gift, not only to receive, but to give as well. And yes, this is our third call of the week, getting ready towards the end of the week. There won't be one tomorrow because I got to go to the chiropractor because I got to get me a little back adjustment and everything. So we won't have a call uh, tomorrow because I was wanting one, but I was like, yeah, I need to get my back kind of readjusted and everything. Plus, also, I got something going on with my shoulder. So it's time to get all that worked out and that kind of thing so I can be back to, I guess, normal, so to speak, in and of itself because my shoulder's been hurting me for months now and I just can't take it anymore. I got to get that thing. I think I got a dislocated shoulder. So I'm thinking that it needs to be popped back in and I think I'll be good after that. But we'll see what the chiropractor says tomorrow. And of course, we've had great and engaging conversations with all of you all this week. So for those who are watching right now live on our YouTube channel, um, uh, you can click this link right here. And I already said I'll be going live in 5 minutes. I actually did less than that. Uh, Click that link, and that very same link is also in our LinkedIn live on my profile page on LinkedIn. We would love to hear from each and every single one of you. We'll be going on until 3 o'clock ish, depending how many people actually show up today. So this is going to be. I just want to give you the lay of the land until we get back to the paid versions of these platforms. We could get up to 6 people on the call at any given point in time. So just want to be mindful of people coming in. And if you're watching this live uh, in the chat stream, and hopefully it shows up on my side, say yes, I want in. I wanted the conversation. Count me in. Whatever you want to say. We would love to have you on the call too as well. So do that in the comment section, whether it be on YouTube, or also on my LinkedIn profile on the event page. And we would love to hear from you guys yet again. And of course, we started off the conversation about trust on Tuesday, and then we went into collaboration versus competition yesterday. And of course, we'll be ending it with this great conversation. And of course, it was inspired by my great friend Keith Kupperman because he did a post many months ago because he asked this question: are you a connector or a connection collector? So Abdullah, glad to see you here too as well. Like I said, that link is already in the comment section. All you got to do is copy and paste that link and do it on Google Chrome because for whatever reason or another, if you're on an Apple device or Apple Safari, it probably will not work. So that will be talking about today, and we're going to have this great and engaging conversation yet again. Um, so let's get right into it. And Anthony, good afternoon, sir. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, another fantastic day. Can't complain.
Yes, yeah. I mean, any day where you can wake up and see progress that you're aiming toward out of like your own decision, it's your own choice. I think it's a good day.
And as long as your feet still hit the ground, then you're good still. So that's a good
Yeah,
thing.
but I have more that I can look forward to. So many people, they're compelled awake. They're compelled wherever they go. I get to be compelled by my own pursuits.
All right, very good, very good. So we're going to be adding out someone else too as well. Adula, glad to see you here too as well. Glad that you are here. And again, we'll be talking about today. Are you a connection connector or a connection collector? And like again, and hello Jay, glad to see you here too as well. Would love to have you on the call too as well. So please click that link on the LinkedIn live stream, copy and paste that, and we will love to have you there. Uh, Again, I wish Keith was here because he's the one that's inspired this conversation today. Because he asked that very question many months ago: are you a connection connector, or are you a connection collector? And the reason why he phrased it as such is because, especially now in the age of social media, we get inundated not only for connection requests or messages or whatever the case may be, and I'm just as prone to it as everyone else is. You get so many things. You like, how in the world can I filter all this through? How can I actually respond to all these people? And the way I balance that out is I just take it one message at a time, one connection request at a time, and just take it for what it is. I mean, because the one thing I've come to find out, Abdullah and Anthony and Jay, is that um, I don't send a message to someone's inbox, and the reason being is, number one, I don't want to end up doing that to them as what people do that to me, because I know that when you get that flooded of inbox, you're like, oh my God, how do I get through all that? So I just simply just put it out there, bing, bang, boom. Now, mind you, I have had those times though that if something was said, like, I wish, Anthony, I should have invited you to that call today. I was with my great friend Dennis Pococo, um, and we were actually talking. Hello, Jay. How you doing? Glad to see you here today, sir. Um, that they were talking about uh, how does what you call it, obligation and expectation come into play, and um, I thought that was just a great thing, and I know we'll talk about that at a later time. And I was like, man, I should put that out there, but I know we get so much stuff going on, so I didn't want to put too much on people's plate. So it's just about, like I said, just allowing people to come in and show up as who they really are. Um, and Jay, whatever you do to your phone, don't do anything more. Once you're on the stream, just let it be. Don't touch anything. You're good. Um, because I've come to find out and realized that the best thing that you can do from a connection standpoint is you just meet them where they're at, just take them for who they are, and just start it there. Now, mind you, is the other side of that is like what Keith said is, are you a connection collector? And that other dichotomy with that, ladies and gentlemen, is, do we actually get these people on social media not only to like the stuff that we put out there and do it things maybe from a vanity matrix standpoint, to where they do the like and that's it and that's all they do and everything like that. And for me, I have done that as well, that I will just click the like button, or click the little emoji or whatever, that kind of thing. And we've all done that. But I'm trying to get away from all that, because I really truly want to engage with people for what they bring out into the world. And the way that you can really do that is not only doing the like or the subscribe, but really add a deep and meaningful, maybe even thought provoking comment on whatever they put out there. And I truly believe once you put that out there and just let that be, then it's not a matter of if they're going to have that conversation with you. It's just only a matter of when. Now, mind you, again, the way a lot of social media platforms work is you get to a certain number of people, and then next thing you know, oh my word, you're at 31,000 people. You can't get any more connection requests, which I kind of get that, but I'm like, no, that should be a thing that you should be able to go to infinity with that and that kind of thing. And that's another thing that we will definitely address today on today's call, especially when it comes to groups on social media, especially on LinkedIn. And I've been seeing this play out very well. Is uh, uh, actually as an example of this, is what has been happening is people will get a request to join a group, and then for whatever rhyme or reason, they can't get into the group because either they have too many groups in their group list that they're a part of, and everything like that. And I know people here on LinkedIn, and hopefully LinkedIn will see this. LinkedIn, get rid of that. Really, if people want to be a part of a group, because Facebook doesn't really kind of limit you to how many groups that you can be a part of, I truly believe if you open that up, you get far more possibility not only of connecting with people, but actually people see you for who you are and everything like that. So that's what we'll be having the conversation about is, are you that connection connector or that connection collector, or even Keith has said it to me, maybe that connection vampire, that you're just basically only wanting to connect with people just for the name recognition. Jay, don't do anything more on your phone. You're good. Don't touch anything. You're good.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're good. So don't touch anything. So I want to, like I said, start the conversation off there and everything. So Anthony, I'll start with you, sir. Are you a connection connector or a connection collector?
Well, there's the objective data and then there's the subjective. And objectively, if you look at it, it looks more like collection than connections. I mean, so like I have the Connecting the Sciences group where I was able to get, I think it was like a little over 300 people together for a while, but that ended up, not maintaining that. And then so now when it comes to a lot of times with connections, you'll see someone with a title or something that's interesting, and it's like, oh, okay. In the back of your head, it's like I'm bagging this up for some later date, but then you end up with thousands of connections. You forget who you're connected with or who you're messaging, and then it becomes a chore, I guess, when you do it like that. I guess less intentional. But what I'm doing right now is it's kind of beneficial because I can also use like AI to help organize. So went through, started just collecting all those PDFs of the profiles and uploading that to the GPT, getting some like basic kind of descriptions to separate the people. And then I'm able to now start organizing groups and creating them here, um, AI first, because to just go through one at a time, um, I don't know. I feel as if I wanted to have a reason why that would be problematic, but maybe I haven't really considered that through. I just using the tools of today. So, I mean, that also helps me pick who I want to talk to directly. So maybe even in that moment, I'm more resonating with this desire, something that someone else is doing in this area. And
Mm-hmm.
by seeing those profiles and kind of reading through them a little bit, not just having to click and because it gets deep, you go through their about section to check out the experience. If they've got a video or something, you want to check that out before you get some sort of insight. Having AI kind of helps sort it out a little bit quicker. I think is really helpful to be able to just ask it to reorganize it a particular way. And so now, yeah, I've got I really have a list open on my computer screen. So hopefully I'll have some better organization here and more connections for
Yeah,
collection. Yeah.
and I love that you brought the organizational piece into the conversation, Anthony, because that's a big component in and of itself. Because for me, I got to be organized. That's just the way I roll. I used to be not that way. I used to live in chaos, and I got to end up, always, don't know where I'm going to go and all that kind of stuff. But I understand organization comes to a place of that dichotomy of, maybe it's not necessarily prioritization, but it kind of is. But see, I've learned to let go of, to the, almost like it's priorities is such a high level kind of thing for a lot of people, and for me, it was at one point that if I didn't do this thing first, and I didn't do this thing second, and I didn't do this thing third, I would lose my way. And for me, I just really got out of that for the mere fact that I understand that there's priorities, absolutely 110%. But for we to be really more organized, I can understand what is probably asked of myself from that priority standpoint and say, hey, maybe this is actually more important now than something else right now, and just really recognize as such. Because again, the one thing that's the actually constant in life, that's literally the only thing that's really the only guarantee and constant, which is change. And change is going to be there each and every single time. So from a priority standpoint, I recognize as such now to such an extent, even when I'm reaching out to people, whether it be on social media, in my town here in Lakeland, or wherever that might be, I'm just going to show up, put the gift of invitation out to people, and if they take it, great. If they don't take it, maybe when I become a lot more visible to them and they see, again, who I am, not necessarily for what I do, because I truly believe, Anthony and Abdullah, and hopefully Jay will come back on here in a second, that what we do is a natural byproduct of who we are. And I truly believe if we get to know who people are, first and foremost, and we don't do it because I'm not just connecting with Anthony for the sake that Anthony looks like a basketball star and he may be the next LeBron James or whatever, or even like he said before, he's a big fan of Elon Musk and he might be the next Elon Musk. I'm just not going to put myself to that kind of category and say, I know this guy, but you should know this guy. And I just can't do that anymore. I just really just take it for what it is and just let things kind of naturally and organically kind of take shape. And if it works out, great. But then again, I'm not going to force it. I'm not going to contrive it, or even have a hidden agenda with that. So let's go over to Abdullah. And Abdullah, I know this is your first time here. How you doing today, sir?
Hi, Chris. How are you? Good evening today.
Doing well.
Uh,
Doing well.
it's nice to see you here with a great idea. Uh, I have joined you basic of your conversation, so let's move on so I can hear you well. What exactly is going on here? So, but probably I'm in LinkedIn with more to get more connections. So, well, we can move on with you, so you can carry on.
All right, Abdullah. Thank you so much for joining us today. And Jay, hopefully you're coming back. Maybe you might be having some technical difficulties. So hopefully everything will be worked out for you here momentarily. Um, but I'm a big believer, like I said many times on these programs that we put out there, that everything not only happens for a reason, but everything's there for us to really not only listen to what's being shown to us, but we can learn from that and maybe we can take out of it what we really need from it, or even those very people for what we need at the given point in time. Now, mind you, again, there are going to be people in this world who just only connect with you to further their own goals, their own agenda, further whatever they're doing, and kind of use you as a stepping stone to get to that next place. I get it. I know a lot of us hate it. I do. I just can't do that. I just can't take someone else's opportunity to connect with me and collaborate with me and get to know who I really am, just in the furtherance of who they really are. And they kind of say, okay, I've used Chris. He's gone. I'm now at the top. I got a PhD in this. I got this and that. I don't need him and everything like that. But see, again, that's what I truly believe, that we kind of lose sight of maybe the very value that we bring to the table each and every single day. So that's why I'm a firm believer. If you bestow value on the people, even if you do have that hidden agenda in mind, maybe that agenda that you do have can be negated to a large degree over time. And maybe you can be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm not going to take Jay for a ride here on this because Jay is just too much of a nice guy. I can't do that to him anymore. I just can't do that. And then maybe by them seeing that for themselves, then they can be able to say, I can show up authentically, genuinely, and this is who I'm going to end up becoming with people. and everything. So, Jay, I'll turn it over to you. Glad to see you here, sir. What's your take on being a connection connector versus a connection collector? What say you? Are you are you still?
Audio's muted.
Audio's muted.
I think he's having some network connections issues, though.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. That he's still having some issues on his audio.
Hi, Chris.
How you doing, Jay?
Sorry about that. You know what? There was like too many things going on with the restream, and then there was a LinkedIn going, and then you guys that were talking the restream. It's like, ugh. So yeah, no, Chris, this is a great topic. So as far as connections go, I think I would like to think of myself as a connection collector. However, the question is, who do we connect with? I think we need to when we connect with someone, we need to find connections that will really uh, benefit our lives. I think like for example, like if there's someone in college, which you took a course with, I would rather connect with a person like that. If there's a person who I don't know has advocated for you know disabilities, I would connect with someone like that. If there's a good recruiter or a coach who can help with jobs and resumes and interviews, I will connect with someone like that. Um, so I think it's really important that we that before you just hit that connect request or friend request, we need to think about who we connect with and how has that person been part of our lives. Because believe me, Chris, I will be honest and transparent here. I have gotten uh, connection requests from people who I don't even know in the first place, or sometimes I would be hit with on Instagram. I would be hit with requests from, I don't know, weird women, females. Like I don't I don't know you. I don't know. I've never seen you in my life. How did you get? And that's really, it's all about trust and security and transparency and honesty. So I think that's what I have to say about this. So I will end my speech right there.
Anthony, your thoughts?
I think everything comes down to trying to get an understanding as to how somebody else sees the world and sees himself in it, because perspectives can be very different. So, for example, it's very difficult for me to go a place and not see any sort of situation, hear a thing, and not have literally parts of the solution worked out in my head to an extent where sometimes you'll get to a point where there's no point in putting mental energy here. You've got the solution, but it's like there's way too many hours. That becomes the problem, and then you waste a certain amount of time thinking about how many hours it's going to take, and you end up moving forward. So when you see people on LinkedIn, right, and you see what they offer, it's not so much as like oh, let me just collect another one of these because then I'll have, I guess, something analogous to like gamer score on an Xbox. It's more along the lines of you see the pieces. So this, I think, one way to consider it, to see this a different way, is when it comes to organization that you were talking about. There's like pre-organization, post-organization, and then there's just organization in that moment. So I think most people think about organization as you do it ahead of time and then you sit down and you get everything done. where there's a lot of times where, especially when it comes to thinking about like how a kid might play with Legos, you have to see the components before you can have an image in your head of what's possible. Because as soon as you have an image, you look to see what's available. You can plug it in. You can manipulate the object in your mind based on what's available. But it literally is the opposite of organization. It's everything out at once. Now, as you're going through, a lot of times you're trying to work your way through this data that's unorganized, you're organizing it as you're getting through it. So instead of trying to just arbitrarily put things places and then you start to construct and then you're looking for things, you have the things where they are, you start to construct and you're organizing stuff. You're putting stuff out of the way, you're categorizing things. So that way it's a different way of considering how your visual, how you see something affects how you can imagine it, and how you interact with it can be very, very different than other people see it. And so again, when it comes to something as complex as like a connection, it has a high amount of utility because everything that you're doing is for the influence that it has for other people. And so when you think about just what someone else has that they can provide that you can't provide, in a way it kind of sounds bad because it's almost like you put them away almost like a tool in your pocket, but we're all tools in my situation where it's like if I can take my time and energy to do something, like a tool that will improve your life, you're going to feel better. I'll see it in your face, your body language. It'll change your perspective. It'll change mine. Something else happened. This is kind of, I don't see another way to really see service, right? Like to come forward and say that I'm going to provide something for someone else is to consider yourself as a tool to get to that point. So when you get excited because you're so used to looking at like all the complexities, and the second you see more complexity, people get nervous, but you want to hold on to it because you never know what's going to pop up or what's going to be useful. And even now, when you're going through it, and you have ChatGPT, they're able to kind of go through and just give you a rough rundown on everyone. Then you go to their profile and you can spend more time, start getting excited about stuff that you wouldn't normally think you'd get excited about, like someone who's talking about, empowering women, and that's not necessarily your angle, but you have like a desire because a perspective came to you, and it would be very helpful. And so it's like if I could just get this, if I could just get this to them, then now I can move on to the next thing. So it's finding a pace and being able to recognize, okay, how much chaos, how much disorder can I reasonably hold on to and manipulate within a certain amount of time, so as to not, sign up for something, conceptualize it might take a week, but in reality, I picked up several months worth of work, which has happened before. And sometimes you pick it up and you overassume, so it might take less time. But yeah, it's a work in progress. And again, it's a different way of seeing things. It's like realizing everybody has utility, everybody has a purpose. I think people just say that, they don't really mean it. You see a bunch of other individuals. They don't recognize like how we all fill these empty spaces. Like I'll run too far into detail there, but you can see how sometimes that the different perspective gets seen differently.
Absolutely. Abdullah, what's your thoughts on that?
I think I'm with. Actually, I didn't get his point well, what he was exactly saying on, but what I have seen, listened from Mr. Anthony, so he explained very well. It's our own, a visionary, like how you can react, like if somebody is trying to connect with you, it's own decision, like how you are going to connect with him, how you're going to, take it. So generally in social media, it's depend on you, like how you're reacting. Now in social media, which you can see, like as you have already mentioned, people are trying to make different kind of groups, and they have different kind of meaning on it. So it's really very hard to like like as I have seen today, you have put something in the stage that your mind setup is totally different, right? So but it's upon me, like how I'm going to take this platform, whether it is for the learning purpose, or business purpose, or any some other you know uh, prospects.
Anthony?
Yeah, so that's I guess that's the connection that I'm trying to make is that when people look at the world of everyone else, they look at things very one dimensional, right? It's you, it's me, it's this, then it's that. But when you look at things like that, then you have no ability to picture a whole structure, a system. You're basically trying to plan blind until you can step back and see what's the available space, what's the available options, what's needed, what's not, where's it located, what's stopping this from going there. If you just go one thing at a time, then you run into this problem where even if you have all this information, people themselves are like will fight against making the first move or decision or going forward in anything, especially when you have a group. So if you have a bunch of people who are there and it seems like, well, it's obvious why haven't they already started doing this? Well, it's because they're waiting for something. And so then I'm going through, getting information from them, seeing basically what they're waiting on. And it's like they're waiting for someone else to give them some amount of direction. The question is, how do you give direction that sparks their own desire to take over without, being like, okay, this is where you go, this is what it is. And so I think, trying to do that right now with this different organization, right, which is it's difficult because when you're looking at organizing these components, some of them are so different with respect to one another. Someone who focuses on emotional intelligence and
Yeah,
empathy and
absolutely.
maybe empowering women versus someone who's so then how do you take all of that, bring it together? I don't think you could do it just one person at a time. I'm just not sure how you do that.
And that's why I truly believe, Anthony and Abdullah, there's no one way that we can connect with people. Because if we try to just do it in a kind of one way kind of dynamic, it's always going to be relative to that very one way. It's just almost like in the other call that I was on this morning. I asked the question: do we have to end up saying things like "in need of" or "in order to" of, or "you have to" this, that, and the other? Just fill in the blank after that. And those are the things that you gotta, from either a societal norm, a culture norm, or even a family dynamic norm, that where it's literally it's conditioned that you have to end up doing these particular things. Just like there was a lady, her name was Amy, saying that her father taught her this, is that um, that you got to be independent, go your own way, chart your own course. But yet, in the same breath, he said to her, you got to end up literally doing these things in these kind of ways. You got to get on like it's my way or the highway. So it's almost like a contradictory statement to say, hey, I want to connect with you, but the only way you can connect with me is if you are in this labeling of a group or you're in this thing. It's almost like, oh my God, you're literally putting people in the very box dynamic or very label.
Yeah,
And we've all done that,
yeah.
have we not?
hmm But I think it's a little bit so the perspective here is a little bit more different. So where you bring them toward this group, the idea is like, okay, if I've got a bunch of programmers and then I got a bunch of people working in like HR versus advertisement, it's advantageous to have them together because there's just a lot of benefit that comes from that. And so the idea is also you give them the structure of everything else. This is what else I'm trying to put together. This is how I've done it so far. Feel free to go in anywhere you want to, right? If this isn't the group for you, make the group that you'd like and bring any of the people you'd like to there. If you want to rent, like anything you want to do, you can do it. But it's more like how do you get them to? You mean like how do you give them some sort of, I guess, incentive when it seems like it's already been there? I was under this assumption that it would be difficult to map connections between how everyone could work together. But looking at their profiles, it seems obvious.
But I'm glad you brought that piece into the conversation as well. Assumptions, I hate to use this phrase, but you know the old adage, you
Yes.
know, it
So I start off with questions.
yeah, it's like
Mhm.
you should never assume, because if you make an assumption, you make a you know what out of me and you, and everything, and you really don't want to do that. So and think about it in the space of being that connection connector versus that connection collector. Assumptions can literally kill an opportunity to connect. And Abdullah, I got to get your thoughts on this. If we can remove assumptions from a connection space, whether we're in a place of leadership, followership, or even in our home family dynamics, how can we remove that assumption for us to really genuinely and openly connect with people on that deep and meaningful human level, to where we don't let assumption run shot over the opportunity to see the potential, what could be actually there between two people or a group of people or whatever that might be. What's your take on that, Abdullah? Abdullah, you there?
If I could add my concern is how do you keep it in a way that doesn't become over
Mm.
flooded, right? Like just maybe you bring them together and literally it just takes two individuals who have a thing, right? And they're going back and forth. And then now someone shows up and there's just a whole list of messages. They're reading through them, they're not following it. And then the next time there's a notification, there's like less incentive and more less incentive. Every time they get there and the information doesn't apply to them, they have less desire to get involved with it again and to add their input. So when you look at something like, okay, you're someone who likes to speak to people about whatever your perspective is. This person also likes to speak to people, likes to speak to people. You all like to communicate in front of people, right? Whether or not it's online, you've got all different podcasts. You're all basically doing that, but you have your different niches. That's how you guys got here, right? Like, so you might have a lot in common, but you can go anywhere. And then, okay, I think what would be beneficial to you all, based on the questions I asked you, and I got your feedback, what you desire most. Seems like you guys could benefit from having someone do some administrative or other things that, you might be doing now out of necessity, but it's taking away from your desires. So that's something that we might have more of in this group
Mm.
here. So any of you can come together and be a leader. You can flip flop, whatever you want to do. I put you there. You can restructure it, do whatever you want. But I just felt like maybe a lot, at least in that scenario, it's like at least having people that speak the same language together, maybe
Yeah.
that'll help spark up their desire to get going.
Or even better yet, Anthony, I'm glad you brought the language kind of component into as well, because what I even said on the other call today is when we're talking about the obligation piece versus the expectation piece, I kind of said from an English language perspective, there is one word that I know of that actually has two different meanings, but it's the same word, which is aloha. Aloha means hello and also goodbye at the very same time. Now, mind you, if language does matter, even from a connectivity standpoint, and there is power not only in the words there within, but also there's a message behind those words. And I wish Tom was here, because Tom would probably go into this like nobody's business, and he will do really well with this. But for me, from that connective standpoint, sometimes the best thing to even say is not really sometimes really anything at all. You just have to literally take in the moment for what the moment gives, because yet you can write this nice little message saying all these beautiful things, all flowery and nice and all that kind of stuff. But to me, Anthony, Abdullah, I think we kind of gotten old by that. We kind of said, oh, okay, it's the same old, same old. And we get also into our
Oh, thank
head
God.
of saying, hey, am I being sold here? What's your thoughts, Anthony?
My thoughts is like you just walked over to whatever I was doing, like, hey man, you don't need to carry that extra weight around on your back. Like you could just put that down because I hate that kind of shit. I don't know. To be honest, like I look at it and the whole hey name, comma, my name at the bottom. Like, why the hell am I putting my name at the bottom? My name's at the top. Like, but then I've taken there's been times where like I've had like AI and I've had my messages that I went through with testing and then I had AI test whatever they wanted to do, right? And I looked at it and I was like, I don't like this. It looks kind of gross. But then I sent it out and I actually got more feedback from those messages than I did from my own. And then it started having all this meaning about how people feel when you use their name, how people feel about the all the stuff that's like irrelevant to at least my goal is to get everything going, right? Like you guys are over there doing this stuff. I want to get the system components together so that way we can the whole point of bringing these components together is to get something that's greater than the sum of the parts. I want to see everybody come together and get way more out of it than they would have otherwise, and get to see something greater than like just like being able to be part of the team that like built the starship or something like that. I like that idea, but like, bogged down with thinking. How much do I think? How much do I act? When it deals with people, it's sometimes difficult to know. So then now again, going back and using AI as a quick way to kind of sift through, it's like, okay, this person's not going to respond to objective, direct stuff. They want more of a sell them. They want to believe you. And then this other person over here, they could care less about like the story. They want to know exactly what the plan is. Um, and then kind of feeling, okay, where am I at right now? Looking at these profiles, which one do I feel like? Because at the moment that you feel, then you can write a more genuine, direct message. So like going back and forth now, it's like I just kind of want to bring you guys together in a way where you start doing stuff, and then once you guys have your own kind of momentum going, then I can come in and start putting in whatever 2 cents I may have and learn and whatnot. I don't want to influence it very much, right? Until it's like if you're creating AI, you don't want to put too much of your own data in there, but you have to start it from something. So
And for
roundabout,
and for me, and Abdullah, like I said, just send me a connection request if we're not already connected. And yeah, definitely me and you will talk later. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm the kind of person, again, that Anthony, I'm not going to put no expectation on any one person. And the reason being is because from a societal norm perspective, I've seen it play out far too many times that I could count. And you probably have seen it too as well in your inbox. You see these particular kind of phrase and buzzwords being said, and you kind of thinking to yourself, "Oh my God, this is the guy who's just here to sell me something already." And some of it's legitimate and it's true that you can just smell it a mile away, and you can say, "Nope, sorry, ain't doing it, ain't gonna have it." Move along. These are not the droids you're looking for. Just kind of do that. But I am not going to discount that, and the reason being is, and this is what I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen, this is what I will do if you want to connect with me here on LinkedIn or also on our YouTube channel. Just send a message, and we would love to hear from you guys, and I would love to have a deep and engaging conversation with you guys. But this is what I do with every single person they send me a message. The thing I say is like, thank you so much for reaching out and connecting with me here on LinkedIn or whatever social platform that is. It's truly an honor and privilege to get to meet new people like yourself each and every single day. I truly get a thrill out of it, and which I truly do. I get a thrill out of meeting people each and every single day. But I tell them this. I was like, if they say something of, about the business or something to that effect and that kind of thing, I put it in this kind of context. I'll say, besides what you're proposing here today, what really sparked your interest into my LinkedIn profile, or in context also on the flip side of that, and to bring you and Mandy together, and what said to you I needed to get a hold of me or join our Great and Growing Community and Movement, what did that look like? And then what I will do is send them my story and kind of set up a meet and greet call after the fact. And if they respond back, they do. If they don't, I understand that. But that's what I do with every single person that I meet in one way, shape, matter, or form. Now, mind you, not everyone responds back. Not everyone even answer a connection request from me, and I understand that too as well. Because again, I'm in the same boat as probably they are. It's hard because I'm not trying to put the numbers game ahead of a connection, and I know there's some people who do that. That they are so geared by the numbers and say, hey, we got to reach 1 million followers. We got to reach 10,000 likes on this post. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stand before you today and I will say this to my dying breath. I am not about the numbers. I don't care how many people like my post. I don't care how many people like our conversations here at Bringing Humanity Together. I really don't care. And that's not being saying that I wouldn't be sincere enough to hear from each and every single one of you, get engaged with each and every single one of you. But early on in my journey of even creating Bringing Humanity Together, I was that kind of person, ladies and gentlemen, that I was literally chasing down people just to really get recognized for what I'm building with a great number of people from around the world. I would literally chase them down, be that people pleaser. And up until probably 6 to 8 months ago, I said, no more. I can't do that. I cannot do that because it's dragging me down. It's probably dragging the community and organization down. And I'm not going to go down like the Titanic and hit that iceberg and then boom, there you go. I'm dead in the water. I'm not going to do that. I'd rather just keep on going, keep on trucking, because if you start getting stagnant in whatever you do, in some instances, stagnation can be a blessing in and of itself, and I get that. But also, stagnation also creates a place in space that you get paralyzed. I know there's that old adage, the analysis paralysis kind of dynamic that comes to mind too as well. And that's why I am not going to keep myself or keep anyone here in our Great and Growing community from their potential. And as you were talking earlier, Anthony, I kind of recognize this. Our community should be the kind of community that once you get into it, you want to leave it better than from which you came into it or you found it. And that's what I really want to do with this is I want people to come into it on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, whatever that might be, and become better each and every single day for it, not in spite of it. Because the more that you can grow from one day to the next, it's like on yesterday's video that we had with Rob House, the law of incremental growth. You just can't start 3 feet one day and then be 6 feet the next. It just don't work that way. So I truly believe if we give people that freedom and that room to grow into this on their own course in due time, then people will be more apt to connect with you, not because of what you do, but more importantly about who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in. Does it go into alignment with them? Is it in agreement with them? But it doesn't necessarily have to be exclusively on either way. But if you consistently show up, though, that matters, because then they can say, hey, I want to speak to Anthony. Anthony, I hear you look like a basketball star because Jay told me that you were. So I need to know, do you play ball? Do you got game? I mean, that kind of thing. And then that creates that ice-breaking effect to where if that iceberg does come and seek us out, we're not going to be afraid of that iceberg, because you know what? We got enough momentum to literally crush that iceberg, and we can go full steam ahead, and we're not going to let anything or anyone stop us from not only achieving our own great potential, but also from a community and movement standpoint to have the greater potential for each and every single one of us. Again, like you said, Anthony, to become a part of something bigger than of themselves.
Which is, I think, exactly what I'm doing. So one of the things that you were mentioning when it comes to stagnation, I wonder what. So there's a lot of things that may look like stagnation, but isn't necessarily. So if if you consider, like, let's say I have to travel somewhere, and you're just looking at the car in the driveway, and you're spending all this time inside, putting on clothes, collecting the keys, your wallet. These are things that are necessary for to make it to where you're going. So, for instance, right now, what I'm doing is more along the lines of having all of this. I have all these connections here now, and it's kind of like I'm running them through a sift where they can walk their way in, or they can just stay, right? Like if they have any sort of desire to influence or provide anything at all, that it's like awesome over here, right? Like, and then anyone else who, which basically, if you don't respond, then it's in the other sift. Then I have what's available, and then now I can take what's available and basically, again, because I know that this person has spent so much time, energy, and effort to create something that has a following that they're showing up to religiously, consistently. They're putting in like their blood, sweat, and tears into this. Now to try and like just move them over here, that doesn't even like how. Anyway, but the fact that they did that means that when they see someone else that has something, that they see the structure, right? Like the videos that they posted, the time, they know what goes into that. So then now having someone who has that kind of relationship, being able to be like, look, I brought you guys here together. Why? Because I want you to look at what you guys have and create something out of it, right? Like if you want my idea, I think that basically you could just go down the line. I saw this video you did, and this guy does this. I'm pretty sure like off cold turkey, you would have just thrown him in there. He would have had a different perspective, his expertise from his writing a book, your expertise from doing, this with women, this, all of these expertise just kind of sitting there in their own lanes. And so now it's like, okay, what do you want to do? Obviously, you're showing what you want to do. And so now, would you like to offload some of the labors? Because I imagine there's aspects of it that you don't really desire, right? You just have to do them. So bring you guys together. You're like, okay, we would all benefit from, someone to handle this aspect of things, so we can find that person. And because, again, they're in a group that is only defined by the output of the individuals, and that output isn't anything short of basically a portion of their life, right? When you see 20 something years of doing something, or however many years, and it's like, okay, I might be grouping you, but I think it's more you group yourself. All I'm saying is like, you put on that clothing and they did the same. It might help if I put you all together. So that way, when you have a conversation, it's not, completely something else. It's not like, okay, I'm a recruiter, I deal with systems and this kind of stuff, and then I'm a person who deals with like TEDx speaking and book. Like, it gets too messy too quick,
Yeah.
and then people will fall off.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that 100%. And I truly believe we get caught up in people's titles or the things that they are being recognized for. It's just like, for the life of me, Anthony, I don't know why that if there's an ABC or 1, 2, 3 before or after your name, that gives you any more credibility or any more visibility than someone like me or you. To me, all that is something that they have gotten along their journey in life, that they've gotten more knowledge, they've gotten more insight, they've went, like you said, to a TEDx conference and spoke here, and that's all that is. Nothing more, nothing less. And when you get into the semantics of it, it's just like, I remember this in the 21 Irreversible Leadership, the audio version. John C. Maxwell says, when he was going to the airport one day and he was kind of late for a flight and everything, and he was going through the check-in, the guy at the TSA counter going through the baggage check-in and all that kind of stuff, he was putting all his things on the table and everything like that, and he had one of his books, and on the back of the book was a picture of John C. Maxwell, he didn't initially look at John C. Maxwell who was going through the line, but he saw the book as it was going through the turnstile and that kind of stuff, and they kind of looked up and said, "That's John C. Maxwell." And then he looked up, and there he is. There's John C. Maxwell, and he gets recognized because of the very picture, because of the very book. Now, mind you, if he never had the book, he would probably. I wouldn't say this with a guarantee, but I'm pretty certain that he would probably not blink an eye and say, "Hey, that's just another guy going through the line getting his ticket or whatever," and it wasn't nobody of any significance or importance. He would probably just go on his merry way and that kind of thing. And for me, that kind of name recognition factor is a natural byproduct, in my estimation, and I could be completely wrong in this, Anthony. It's just about showing people who you really are, not because of what you do. Because I guarantee you, if we were just recognized for what we do each and every single day, we wouldn't be called human beings. We'll be called human doers, and we're not that.
So if I could, I think so. First of all, I look at things a little bit differently, right? Like if someone first of all says something like, they have an MD before their name versus TEDx speaking or author, those are a little bit different because I believe one is a far more clear, culturally like objectified map where it's you can it's pretty simple relative to something where what you're doing requires other people to have an interest in it. So when you say TEDx speaking, that's like, okay, you're still pushing towards something, but more so than what the title does for me is it allows me to know more about them, right? Like if you put MD in front of your name, that's probably because that's your most proud achievement, right? Like that's unfortunate because, if you did all these things, for example, like there's certain people who will show up to a job and I had so many years of experience working at this project for this company. And then at this company, I was this title for these many years. I collected these pay stubs. And then there's the person that says, I felt there was this issue with whatever, something I was leading or whatever. And then I had to solve this problem. Something came up and I did a specific thing. And then so those kind of people have a different, that's just a different, I guess way of which you can group someone, which unfortunately you have to group people, but it's like, what kind of group are you creating? Is it a solid structure? Like you signed a contract, sit in that chair, do this work? Or is it more just like a name where I need to identify you in the crowd? And it would help if I'm not just like standing outside of a building yelling up. I know, okay, I can go to the second floor, this side, and that's where I can then go find the person I need. So in that scenario, it's like, okay, when these people have identified themselves a specific way, I've done these things, and these things mostly line up right there closer with they are much easier to say that these two things are very, very similar with respect to something else, right? Like someone who's in IT, security, or something like that, versus someone who authored a book and has a podcast. Very
you see
different.
Interconnectivity.
Yeah, but that's one of the things I start off by asking them a question, not just like what they are doing is what they have to advertise, but what do you want to do? Because I mean, hell, like you could be interested in something as simple as like sending out the connection, the reminders. You could be an engineer who just wants to talk, like, and so I'm not going to have that be any sort of limiting factor. It's like, what would make you want to come back every day? What is it you have that if you could give it, what is it that you would like to receive that it would drive you to show up?
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, see, my first and foremost thing that I want to do with every single person that I meet, Anthony, and you probably know this as well, but I have to put it out there for the world to hear, is I want to create an environment not only of the one that I love, but maybe of the one that they can love too as well and be a part of. But more importantly, literally the creme de la creme of what really makes me do what I do each and every single day is because I recognize it's not only my passion, my purpose, and my calling, but more importantly, I'm always doing things from a place of intention, inspiration, and impact in mind to such a high degree that I want to provide value for people to show up when they show up. And if I can provide that value, that's I know you can't. I know there's one. In fact, I gotta remember. There's this guy who actually created a value equation, and I don't know who he is, but he kind of did this in a math equation kind of thing. And I'm glad you kind of brought that to my head, because for me, value is a priceless dichotomy in and of itself. And we really don't give a lot of thought to that very value when we are reaching out to connect with people, or even from a collector standpoint. It's like, again, going back to your thing about, the priorities of where you want to set yourself in the grand scheme of things of who am I going to connect with? Is this going to be a collector kind of person, or am I actually going to have someone who I really want to connect with? Whether they're an MD, someone from TEDx, whatever that might be. But then, like I said, furthermore, like I said, I'll go back to the very value dynamic, because I truly believe we're inherently are driven by value to a large degree. That if you provide value to somebody and they see it and they know it and it's their heart of hearts, and it's not about the money or the recognition of what they'll give and say, hey, I'm just a male guy here at this Fortune 500 company. I just only do the top 5 floors, and that's all I do. But see, I truly believe that mailman has just as much value, if not more, than even probably the CEO or an executive VP, because you know what? The one thing that interconnects them all is that very humanity kind of dynamic that they all share. So by doing it from that place alone, I truly believe will actually create far more potential, far more and great and engaging conversations. And they can just kind of just show up with that in mind. And if they show up, great. And if they don't, hey, that's on them, not on me. I put to get the invitation out there. And like I said earlier, I'm not going to be that people pleaser person who is going to go after somebody. I'm just not going to run down people, because again, when you start running down people, you're not looking at what could actually be right in front of you, because you don't have that. Like, it's almost like what a prize fighter does. They know how to really go in for that kill shot, and they know when that's coming, because they know how that person is playing them as well as they are actually playing themselves. Because then when they get that kill shot, they know it's over, it's done. I'm out. I'm knocked out. But that's why I truly believe when life does pass us by, we actually pass through life. Life doesn't pass around us; it passes through us. I'm a firm believer. Sometimes we do, like you said, have that place of that we stop. And like you said, stagnation is not a bad thing. Sometimes it's going to be a great thing. But when you have that time to pause and you can recognize, I can have that kill shot right here, right now, but do I choose to take it? Do I actually do it? Do I can take somebody out and just kneecap them and bam, they're gone? But do I want to do that? So it's just about recognizing how that shows up. Are you going to use it with the good intention in mind? Or are you going to truly kneecap somebody and be like, hey, I'm a Crip in the blood, bing, bang, boom, and knock them out? It's just everything comes right down to choice, does it not?
Yeah. So, I mean, coming back to value, right? Value is something that it's agreed upon. It's imaginary, but it exists in the relationship. Value is something that we all have to agree on, right? I could
Yeah.
have something valued at $1 billion, whatever, but if you're not going to pay for it, then it's not actually its value. And so when I'm looking around and I'm making decisions, and it might seem like I'm choosing something based on its value, I'm choosing it based on, I'm going from a systems engineering perspective, right? I'm trying to get this thing to spark off on its own in the most, I want it to happen as organically as possible. So am I going to first start off with the group of people who have chosen paths and roles that are, well, if you looked at it, you could basically find a Google checklist and you'd be like, okay, someone told them to do this, they followed that checklist exactly. Someone, and so if I put a whole bunch of people in a place that have spent their entire career up until this point just looking around to say, oh, someone said the next step to get recognition or to stand out is to do this, costs X amount of dollars and I show up for this amount of time. Like honestly, the way I feel about when, there's benefits to all these things. So I don't want to judge, but like the idea of getting like LinkedIn certifications, it's like, why does that help and do anything when you have Google or GPT that can solve all that instantly? It's basically like if I have a bunch of people who have shown that they have this ability to look out into the void, feel something, and then act on that feeling, then that's where I want to start off with first. Because ideally, I can just leave them to their situation and they'll solve more problems than I could ever if I'm trying to put stuff together. So, when it comes to value, again, it's like it doesn't matter how much money, for instance, you put into like creating a YouTube channel, right? You can have all of the best content, you could have the highest level people, whatever college, whatever people wrote a book. But if you don't have that one person that comes in and says, okay, this is the thumbnail, this is going to be a good title, the description to make it searchable, all of that information, all of that effort to put it together so perfectly, just left there, like no one ever sees it. And so, you have to recognize that. How are you going to build this system, right? Are you going to build it from the ground up? And what does that look like? And how much are you going to try and not touch it while you're building it, right? Like you want it to kind of build itself. So when you see, okay, TEDx speaker, author, this, that, the other, they've shown a lot of scenarios where they picked up and just started doing stuff on their own. So now bring a bunch of them together. Hopefully, okay, look at this benefit here, start delegating some work, getting ideas. Then I can go in there and be like, hey, what do you guys need most? Like, what, based on when you're talking, if you guys could all just be like, I want to get rid of or offload one or two whatever things, what would it look like? Then go and find that person. We might even just pull, I don't know, I'd take money out of my own pocket just to get the person to put the thumbnails on the thing, to edit the whatever. But again, right, it takes, and this is just from my perspective, it just takes a lot more considerations, I think, than people realize. And maybe I'm overthinking, but how do you learn about people? How do you get those people to act when they haven't necessarily acted before in this way? It's a back and forth process, but I think when we try to perceive what someone else is doing or the intention behind it, we paint it with our own beliefs, with our own idea. Like, okay, maybe there's some ulterior motive here where, this person gets something out of it for themselves. But, ultimately it's like, to have all this stuff to create whatever with, I don't know what I would get out of it. Maybe I could brag to my older brother and be like, look at how successful or whatever. But for me, it's like, how much can I influence, right? Like if I could look around and see, like, for me, an image in my head that I see is like, I look out and there's all these young kids, right? Like in their 20s or something. I'm much older. And no matter how smart or more capable I thought I was, I look at all of them and individually I feel insignificant. I feel like old and outdated. Like any individual here is better than me. And because I did my best to give them what I could, right, without taking without taking too much of their free will, I guess you could say, then that would be best, to create better than me, right? How do you do that? Well, again, just letting them do what they do, but trying to find a way to let them do it collaboratively.
Yep. And as you were sharing there yet again and hitting a home run, Anthony, it just came to mind as you were sharing there, and I couldn't agree with you more with that. But it's also about recognizing this kind of dynamic and dichotomy too, as well, is that maybe the best path to success is probably having a great recipe for it. Mm-hmm. And that great recipe can be done, again, in so many ways. But the reason why you have a recipe in the first place is you got to add 2 teaspoons of this with 4 cups of that, and you do a little pinch of this and a pinch of that. That's what a recipe is for. It's almost like the directions to creating that great experience of a meal that you're going to have. because then what's the sense of even having a recipe? And you just, it's like with me last night. I had steak. You know what I did? Because I know I like my steak very well. Put a little salt, put a little Montreal seasoning on it. Flip it on both sides. Bing, bang, boom. I'm done. I know how much I you. But the reason why I don't have recipes for me is because I know what I like. But now, when you really think about it from a movement and organization, or even a community standpoint, maybe we just got to recognize there are so many recipes to be had. It's just about which one works, not only from an individual level perspective, but more importantly from a whole perspective, from a community dynamic. Because I'm the kind of person, Anthony, is I don't care how you start it, I don't even care how you finish it. But what I care about the most is how did you show up to it? What did you learn along the way? What what did you give? What did you receive? And especially when you're having those great recipe moments in life, maybe you can actually say, I can take this from Anthony. I can take this from Tom. I can take this from Patricia, or I can take this from Ileana, or whoever that might be. And by doing that, you are doing that in tandem with yourself back to them, because there might be that hidden gem you say, and Chris, we got to talk about this too as well, because just hit me like a ton of bricks. So I'm going to send a LinkedIn voice message to you and say, hey, we need to talk about this too as well, you know? And that's the beauty of it. You just got to let the recipe kind of play out in its own national fashion, because sometimes some great recipes are not even literally structured. Sometimes they just come into
Oh
a
yeah.
place of being. You know, it's like how Coke started. The way Coke started is they actually used cocaine in Coke, but they had to get rid of that. But they still found a way to keep the taste, keep everything there, and actually probably even make you in a better product than what they already have. So it's about recognizing all that in tandem, because sometimes when you do have a recipe, you can have it structured that you, like I said, have a pinch of this, 4 cups of that, whatever, and that's all be well and good. But see, mind you, I'm the kind of person though that when I bring people in for this to really grow as a great and growing community and movement, for me, the recipe is not only will I have those TEDx speakers or those Fortune 500 CEOs or whatever, but we could have a mama seven. We could have a guy
Hopefully,
who,
you like it, yeah. Because otherwise, it's useless. Like just to go to a whole bunch of people who are, in this kind of isolated group, and then just what make more stuff for the isolated group. No, it's I guess it's just the perception of it versus the utility. And so in this situation, when it comes to the recipe, instead of this organization would be more along the lines of like kind of how my mom cooks, right? She has all of her seasonings and everything organized very well, all the measuring cups and the different stuff, but she never measures anything. Like half the time she'll make a meal, she'll be like, oh, I totally forgot to add this, or I did add this, or I added too much or too little, or it's just different. But like 99% of the time, it's the best thing you ever tasted. And so looking at the fact that these individuals who already have recipes that are being consumed, and they have a pretty good, was like structured amount of effort into it. It's like, all right, well, if I just put these bakers together, what do they want, right? And then I'm gonna be there to try and fill in any gap, to try and create any extra, excitement. Because again, it's, yeah, you need every little component, but to build it, like which direction do you build it? You just find just a whole bunch of people who are going to look to you and ask you basically, well, what do I do? And then you tell them, okay, well, you can do anything. You eventually get to a point you can literally tell them, okay, you're going to do exactly this. And then they're like, well, how do you want me to do this? Can you show me a checklist of exactly what's going to come in, what's going to go out? And it's like, I'm basically just programming you now at this point. And so that's something that you'll see happen more for people who are afraid of trying new things. You can see it from their history, right? Like how much stress have you put yourself under? And I'm talking about stress with respect to the world, right? Like I'm doing something and the world isn't necessarily on my side. There's no clear cut path. And so if I go and I start from a whole bunch of lower stress people and I say, create, right? You're going to keep asking questions and they'll just kind of freeze up. I can show them the way, I can give them an example, but at the end of the day, they're like, oh, well, it's you, it's me, or whatever. At least this way, we can create a little bit more structure from, well, yeah, I guess it's the value, but it's also the spark. And then again, the necessary components like the lug nuts on your wheel, like, you know, the fuel pump, the fuse that goes to the fuel pump, the steering wheel, like all these things that without it, the car would literally not be the car. But again, if you're trying to build the car around the steering wheel or around the windshield or something, it's not necessarily going to be as effective as saying like I've got this amount of power and this amount of space or whatever. So get the people, see if we can just get them excited about whatever, right? Like what if we came together? What if blah blah blah? We like what you're doing. They're kind of sparked off, and then now you go to the other people who have more narrow scopes that they've given themselves, that they've chosen, and you say, well, these are the things that we need, right? Like even if you don't want to do it yourself, maybe you want to find somebody else to do it. Like anything that your mind can think of, at least in this smaller sandbox, it makes it easier to make that decision, hopefully. And then once they do that, they'll be more willing to make other small decisions. But to just bring in the mom of 7 and say like, here it is, you know, like, what do you want to do here? I asked that, but basically from a perspective of you can just have your candy. You don't have to build it. You just tell me what your desires are, and I'll go around and try and see how to best help you get that. But
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and see, Anthony, I love that because I'm about ready to say this too as well. That's totally in alignment and agreement with you on that. I've always said to everyone here at Bringing Humanity Together, and because they, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but this is what always shows up for me each and every single time. A lot of people say, hey, what do you see me doing here at Bringing Humanity Together? What will be my role? And I have to come and get to them again and say this to them. It's not up to me where you want to go with this. That's not my call. My call is to bring you in because I see the potential of doing A, B, C, or D, or whatever that might be. And I can see that with you. But it's up to you to really take that, again, to get the invitation and everything and just start it from there. Because, see, I truly believe, Anthony, what we have done probably for far too long, even from a connection space standpoint, is we expect things in this kind of has to be done from this A way to this B way to this C way, and that's the way it's got to go. It's not like in the need of or in the order to of or have to be kind of dynamic. We just don't let it naturally, organically grow and flow for what's already there. And see,
so
for me, I understand that there's a structure, like you said, 110%. A structure is a great thing. A foundation is needed because if you don't have a foundation, then how in Sam Hill are you going to build a house? That's is a natural organic thing. It's there. But for me, though, at least, Anthony, I want to get your take on it here in just a second because I know you chomp on the bit right now. I can see it. Is that maybe we don't have to end up asking that of anyone else anymore. It's like, what do you see me doing here? Because for me, it comes down to this very simple kind of dichotomy. It's about not necessarily knowing the role, it's about knowing the goal. And if you know the goal, then the role will be more easily not only achievable and attainable, or even more significant for each and every single person in our Great and Growing community, but they can see it for what it is. Because again, like I said before, Anthony, there are kind of two people that we got to contend with and cater to. There are those high-level people. They got to dot the I's, cross the T's, got to read the damn fine print. That's just who they are. I'm okay with that. But also, there's all those people, too, as well, who get everything from a place of simplicity. But how do we bring both sides to the very same table? There are many ways to do that, and that's what I truly believe. There's so many different recipes or even structures that we can create to get to that very same point. Over to you, Anthony.
So when I talk about this structure, it's more like the organization of your spices. You can always move them around. It's like the construction site having the lumber's here, the concrete's there, all the so that way it's just not this pile of stuff. And then so now, there's this idea of where you're going to just come from a perspective of where are we going, and you just leave it open ended, and you're asking this to someone that's more like a zebra, right? Like most people are not necessarily like sheep; they're like zebras, where they don't really have camouflage outside of the herd, and they are afraid to get caught outside the herd. And so, no matter what you say, unless you can show them somewhere where they basically blend in, then they won't make a move. This is the same thing that led to a bunch of people unfortunately turning into, like during the World War. Like, how can normal people get to such a level in any direction? Well, because eventually, like, they will follow their stripes. If this person is about the money, if this person has this desire for a job perspective, if they have this desire to do something as big as bringing humanity together, but they have such a limited view of themselves, then to try and inspire them to think larger of themselves in this context just seems that's, you're telling them, okay, go ahead and jump into the fire, and you're failing. And the thing is, for someone who's afraid of failure, like, I'm just wondering how you would structure that direction, right? Like, I'm still going out and getting all of the details of the individuals, but if we're going to start this whole thing, right, like, we're got a pack of shingles here, and we're trying to say, you don't have to be shingles, you could be anything you want to be. But what do you want to be? You're like, I do shingle work, maybe I'll do this kind of work. And you go, okay, cool, how would you like to see yourself? And I do a shingle work. It's like, okay, well, as soon as we have a roof, I'll show you what's up. You can try it out, and at any point in time, like, the idea is that, I failed the first grade because I literally couldn't read, right? And then now going and getting a degree in mechanical engineering, electrical software, materials manufacturing, going over and starting into chemistry and into philosophy and physics, reverse engineering, neuroanatomy, and like all this stuff, connecting with those communities so that way I could explain things to doctors using engineering. All of this that I'm doing to think to myself that I'm ever going to look at somebody and be like, oh, who or what are you? Okay, well, that's how you'll be utilized. That's nuts. But what I can see is that this person, right, has done a lot of extra things on their own. Either they are happy on that path, in which case to try and convince them, like, hey, there's all these other opportunities, and they don't want to leave that, then why make them if it's got quality, if it's value?
Correct.
But sometimes others have different desires, right? They created this thing, but they really want to do something else. Sure, that's completely open. So again, that's why it starts off with the individual messages where I'm asking them for their feedback, as much or as little as they want, what their desires, what they see. And then I'm going and I'm trying to bring them to a situation where they'll jump in together. And if we're going to get people to jump off first, starting from the people who never jumped off of anything seems the harder way to go. They need more money. They are afraid of this. Like, I'm not sure how to get them to jump off without showing them.
Think about it this way, Anthony. It's not about people failing or succeeding. It's not about that at all. I truly believe if you can create, like you said, someone who loves to do shingles, and that's what they love to do, but yet we know that the roof ain't built yet. This is what we do with them. We just say, hey, we have this available. Can you do this? Would you be open to it? I can do that, absolutely, because everyone can actually, like you said, have the freedom to go anywhere at any given point in time. But the way that you really do that and you really incentivize that is you find out what they are really not only capable of doing, but what is in their actual toolkit in and of itself. This is like, I have to go yet again back to micro and that great podcast with Joe Rogan. Um, the way Mike Rowe got his claim to fame wasn't necessarily dirty jobs. Dirty jobs wasn't his first and foremost thing. What really happened with him, and ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you, go to the Mike Rowe, Joe Rogan interview with him on it. Go search it out. Go watch that whole thing. But what Mike Rowe ended up doing is he wanted to be actually in the realm of entertainment and acting and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So for him to be able to get his, at that point, his SAG card to get work, he got to have an agent. Well, for you, in order to have an agent, you got to have a SAG card. Well, how do you do that? So what Mike Rowe ended up doing is he really wanted to do what his father did. His father was a seventh grade dropout, a mechanical engineer, carpenter, just all. I mean, he had a great slew of toolkit, and he had to do it. But then his father said to him one day, I know you want to do this, Mike, and I know this is what you want to do, but just find another toolkit, find another box, find another toolbox, and whatever that might be. So what Mike Rowe did is he's from Baltimore, Maryland originally. So he ended up going to the Baltimore Opera, started out singing operas. And the way he did that is he would go to the Baltimore Library, pick out an aria, which is actually a song that you would actually sing in an opera, and learn actually that song. He didn't necessarily got the words, but he just knew the tune. So he was in the opera for the Baltimore Opera Company for 8 years. And then that's how he came to get his, not necessarily his SAG card, but there was an actual secondary sister union to the SAG. So if you got your sister union card to the SAG union, you could actually get one and pay on both. Then you could be able to get in. And then that's how he was able to get into that. And then that led him to things like being on QVC at 3 o'clock in the morning, selling all those kind of things, the infomercial thing. And then next thing you know, it led him to San Francisco doing a bit on a nighttime TV show and everything like that. And then that's when Dirty Jobs came in so many years later, because he did voiceover work. And like I said, I encourage you guys to go watch that episode. I'm not going to give you all the spoilers, but that's how he ended up doing that, because he recognized this. You can always get a different toolbox. There's always a way you can get that. But also, he said in that very same interview, if there's always a stage door, there's always a back door. There's always another way to get in. So that being said, Anthony, I actually believe in that kind of format. Bring your own toolkit, bring your own toolbox. I don't care how you bring it. Just bring it. And however that may look like, I'm okay with. But also, I'll recognize too as well, if you don't want to come in through the front door, the back door is just as fine. I don't care. I just want to be able to get you here. That's all that matters. And I don't care how you do it. But just by doing that and just recognizing that, and let people start off in their own unique way. They may be one of those Usain Bolt sprinters, and they have the sprint. Okay, sprint. I don't care. Go for it. But then some people, they got to end up playing the short game for the long game. They're not that big sprinter. They're that marathoner. They actually would do the Ironman 3 times over. They know how to do that. So it's about, again, mixing all those people in and maybe creating the same environment for all to have an experience in. Yeah. And if you could do that, what else can you not achieve or do?
So to help understand, I guess maybe my perspective on this, again, when it comes to this, I think it would be really awesome if anyone from any group just found themselves anywhere else they wanted to be and provided insight or learned or picked up. But for me to go over to someone again who's, been playing the very safe and they're kind of nervous, and I'm just like, jump. jump, and then they just won't jump. And then if I show them an example of someone who jumped, in their head there's like this trigger. Oh well, that's them, and there's me. And so sometimes it's like, okay, if you say here's an office with your name on it, right? Now you can take that name tag and you can put it anywhere. You can get rid of it. You can walk into that office over there, talk to them. It's literally up to you where you want to go. But if you just leave them outside the door, sometimes you'll say, okay, everyone show up with your toolbox, and they'll just look around and they'll just pull out their toolbox and they'll just start hammering away on their own thing. And so now it's like, okay, don't you see how you guys could be hammering because you're both building the same thing over here? Maybe there could be some benefit over here. This person's trying to build, but they're looking for the structure because they need someone to tell them, like, look, this is my tool. I make thumbnails, but I can't just make a thumbnail for no video or for no content. I don't do content. So again, right? Like, yeah, you might say you want to be a shingle again. I'm looking at this area where people who have put in tons of effort to do tons of things they're more likely to either one, be very direct, this is what they're doing, this is their area, and they can provide great value there, or be willing to say, I want to pivot completely and just jump off because that's what they've already shown that they do.
Right.
Now, as you start to get more and more things that are showing up, you can come to the other community of people who are, I want to be a shingle or a door, and you can be like, well, this is what people have. So this is what we have so far. These are the things that they said would help them out. So even though you're not, this isn't your area, if you could help them out, what do you get? What would make that worth it for you? Is there any way you can see yourself fitting into what already exists here, or even creating your own whole other thing that, who knows, maybe it doesn't even directly connect with it right away. Like it could be more of a cooperative than a collaborative, right? Whereas collaborative is like back and forth. Maybe you want to do your own cooperative thing. But again, it's to look at these adults that, just have a persona of how they have to carry themselves, what they've done, and who they are, and how getting this LinkedIn thing makes them feel with respect to the group. And then you're like, jump off. They're not going to jump off. Some people will jump out of a plane with no parachute and catch the parachute, right? Some people will jump off with their own parachute. Some people don't like being in planes at all, will only take a train. To try and get a person who would never leave the ground to go and catch their parachute, it's not going to, I don't want to say it's not going to happen, but I've decided that for me personally, that's not where my efforts are going to go right now. That's not it's not going to maximize my efforts to try and get them to jump off. They don't want to jump. But if I can give them incentives like, hey, look, it's not as dangerous as you think, and it's pretty exciting, then maybe more people will jump.
Yeah, and see, more importantly, though, Anthony, and I truly believe this is true, and you're hitting something that I really love as well, is, again, we don't have to be in the convincing game. We just have to say, hey, if this guy can do this, why can't you? But again, you got to choose to do it. I mean, I know you're a fanboy of Elon Musk, but look what Elon has done. He's created the first solar city. Even though that didn't really go over well, he did it. He had the vision. He created it. But then again, he ended up saying, I'm not going to just stop there. I am going to build a slew of cars and trucks that will be named Tesla. And bing, bang, boom, Tesla came to be. And then, lo and behold, what do we have next? We got Starlink. And there you go. We have interconnectivity that now you can actually send text via satellite through your phone now. Who would have thunk of that? And I truly believe that that's the one common denominator from a lot of people who's in leadership or in positions of just saying, hey, I'm going to step off and I'm going to jump and do this, whether people realize it or not, or even they even want them or not. And see, I believe fear plays a part in that, Anthony, that people don't want to take that jump. And or even with me, and this is just me, and I'm going to be completely honest. I've flown on planes before. I have no problem on a plane, but I have the fear of falling. That's the only thing. So as long as I have a parachute, I'm okay. You just got to tell me to put it on, and I'll be all right. I have no problem with that. But then again, it's about recognizing what you can do versus what you can't. But if you're willing to take that step into the unknown, then for me, I'm the kind of person, Anthony, for me to become comfortable in what I do and why I do it, it's made me to become uncomfortable to become comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. For me, if anything, my concern going in there is that I'm so comfortable being uncomfortable that I don't want to scare people. I want them to see the benefit before they just see something that's completely like, okay, how do I relate to this? Because whether or not I think it's good or not, I got this feeling in my chest that kind of felt a certain way because I haven't seen this before. And so having any scenario where they're just already working together on their own, I can easily walk up and be like, I know how all of you have agreed on this perspective, but I don't know, I might be wrong, but I think this might be an option. If it's not, could you maybe I'm stupid. How is it not an option? And if they can't explain it, then I'll willingly push it just until you at least understand it, and then go, okay, yeah, no, not that way. And I'm like, okay, that was my perspective. But a lot of other people maybe not willing to do that kind of a thing. Again, right? Like you might jump out with the parachute, but then how far will you go? If I told you you had to fold your own parachute, would you? If I told you that you had to design your own parachute, then would you still jump out? Like how high is the plane? Is there someone behind? Like I told you, there's no backup. There's all these considerations that just lead off into infinity. And again, it's like if I can see people and it's like, oh, this person already has all this stuff happening here. Okay, if I could just like show them so that way they kind of start doing something, then I could go to the other people and be like, hey, anything there? I'll continue because I have so many things. There's no end to what I see for myself. It's just if I can set it up in a way that requires less from me rather than more oversight, then I can do more. Because the very next thing, like right now, the other thing on my plate is that converting plastic to fuel and doing it in a cheap way that can be utilized in many other places. The prototyping and all the aspects of that, and again, right, like this aspect of things still benefits that because it's all connected. It's just not very straightforward for people who they want to see this connects to that and that's it.
Right.
But in reality, it's like it's just the complexity just of the individuals and then the system and then the system within the system and the momentum. And so it's like if there's already momentum here, why try and start my own momentum up from scratch and then convince them to leave their momentum behind to come add it to this? Or
it's that old dichotomy. It's like, why do we need to reinvent the wheel? I get that, Anthony, I do. But sometimes a reimagining doesn't negate of what's already there. That's all. I mean, just look what Elon did with Tesla. Tesla, in and of itself, is still a car in and of itself. It's just done a little differently. That's it. And I think that's the thing that we need to drive home moving forward. It's not about being afraid of what is different, but accepting for what that difference may look like to you in your own life. Because again, granted, it's going to come regardless. I mean, it's just like how AI now is going to be a big part of our lives. Again, I understand AI, to me at least, is another form of a tool and a thing that we use to move us forward in the technology space. That's all it is, nothing more, nothing less. It's not going to replace me. It's not going to take my job. It's not going to, that's just the way I feel about that. But I recognize that if there are those tools within our own toolbox, so to speak, the best way that we can actually get the best out of the tools that we have is let people understand not only what tools are available, but how can you use them or even reimagine it. It's just like now, I think the big thing now with Elon, what he's doing now is he's going from the Tesla and the Cybertrucks. Now he's going to have automated semis coming down the line. So that's something that's going to be completely new, to have a autonomous semi going down the road.
While,
but that's going to. I mean, you even saw it in what was it that movie? Was it Star Trek? I think it was, or somewhere else. I saw, but they had it in a movie. It's coming. It's coming. But again, for me, from a place of being that connection connector versus that connection collector, I'm just going to give people in the space and freedom to be who they are first and foremost, and understand what's not only in their toolbox, but I'll let them and know full well what's in mine. And because I tell people right out the gate, if you're looking for a Fortune 500 CEO who's got business acumen out the wazoo that went to Harvard or Yale or whatever, I'm not your guy. I'm telling you right up front. But I truly believe if we get to that place, back to the thing that really matters most, which is our very humanity, it's not about the titles. It's not about what we achieved in TEDx talks or whatever. That's all the stuff that we've kind of done. More importantly, is how are we going to move forward as a human race? And the way, for me at least, Anthony, the way we can move together in the furtherance of our very own humanity through the power of intention, through the power of inspiration, and through the power of impact, and be for the better together. We can do that anyway. That's not only in a great toolbox kind of dynamic and maybe even with a great recipe in mind, but then we can build those foundations or those field of dreams in and of itself in so many different invaluable ways. But then again, we understand there's a structure, there's a way, but then again, I want to create it like a living and breathing ecosystem. It literally can be done in so many different ways, but you can also recognize there are those people who are the architects of the building. There are the people who are the construction workers. There are going to be those people who are going to be the landscapers. Everyone has a place. And then once you really understand and know that, that's how you can know you can have a great and growing community or even in an organization, because once you understand where everyone fits in, so like you said yesterday, it's like having that great puzzle piece in and of itself. It's like, how do you build out that puzzle? One piece at a time. Some people started out on the outside, then they work their way in. Some people, they just throw all the things down and then they start just kind of picking apart and that kind of thing and say, this one fits to this one, and then lay it down. My wife, she loves puzzles. So that's why I truly believe there's one way to do it. Because if there was that one way to success, or that one way to growth, or that one way to leadership, Anthony, I kid you not, we would be reading that book right here, right now. We wouldn't even be on this call.
Give me 1 second. Why is it
Not working for you?
Can you hear me? No?
Now I do.
You can hear me. I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Settings.
I can hear you.
Yeah, I can't. I can hear it very soon.
So just talk a little bit so I want to say something so I can hear.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
You don't hear me?
Go ahead.
So I think what's missing might be like the perspective that I have of what I'm going to do. And so when it comes to showing people what tools are available, there's the overload, right? And so imagine, at least from my perspective, I have a toolbox that has an enormous amount of tools, everything from very small like screwdrivers and some duct tape, all the way to some tools that when you show it to people, it kind of scares them because it's like, well, what's that tool doing? Because it's basically like, oh, well, this tool is a bulldozer or wrecking ball or whatever, and I'm not gonna just smash your stuff with it, but maybe your perception might get smashed or whatever. So in my head, right, you bring together these people that have their really strong focus on where they're going, they're professionals. You allow them to kind of spark up a little bit of interest, so there's some collaboration where they can see the benefit there. And then so now when I go in and I can use what I do to like, hey, I like this, but I want to propose something that goes completely possibly in the opposite direction. Instead of acting, kind of emotional or maybe being more against it, it's a lot more. They're a lot more receptive now, not just because of the benefits of everything else, the collaboration. Other people can then have that insight, and so for me, it's more like allowing at least enough of a structure so that way I feel confident in just opening up all of these things to people, because a lot of the time they're just, some people are receptive to it and they're open and they want that kind of input, and then also to know what input, how to possibly change it for the best, having some sort of a little prototype to look at, and then you can see how it could possibly be improved from a different perspective. Go to the mom, whatever, them, the other people, talk to them, get their collective insight. Like, I agree, and then you bring it to them, and you'd be like, hey, look, I think, and not only do I think, but it's going to be a hard argument, right, to get past, where it's like, yes, there's this desire over here, but then there's the united objective, and so being able to then also demonstrate that, where it's like, you can be just one random person that's not an expert in the field, but because you communicated, you got information from a bunch of people, and you weren't afraid to stand up and defend it all the way until the death, right? Like,
Right.
if it's not enough to, like, I just want you to know that you understand my perspective, because it's not
Right.
my perspective, it's their perspective. And then so, again, like, trying to set it up in a way that has as little of your direct influence on it, because I mean, if you just start influencing everything right off the jump, then how much do you always do that? Will you always be structuring it and manipulating it, or will you kind of have something where there's this understood ethos where it's like, we're coming together for the better, and the better
Right.
sometimes means a part needs to get scrapped or something that has to be done, and that literally might end up cutting out work that you've spent months on, right? But because you're no longer looking at this as an individual that's losing something to try and get part of this idea, you're part of it, you're kind of in that excitement, and then now you're seeing the destruction process play out. So
Right.
it puts a little bit more, I guess, weight. It frees me up, but it also adds weight. It's like, I feel more comfortable approaching them in this way with these things, because people are, but then also I feel like it gives them more of, their own, like, it makes them feel more confident and comfortable and not offended when I show up and say something like, okay, it's great. Like, let me give you an example with the woman empowerment, right? It's really, really great to give all this effort into wanting to empower women, so that way they have it all within themselves. They can go out. If they don't get what they want from this person, they'll just go and find it someplace else, and they'll just keep on going places. But where does that end up, right? You can consider a scenario where, where's this go? If you have 10, women, 10 men, and you actually successfully increase the value of like 8 of the 10 women, right? But then women only ever date across and up. They never date someone that they consider to be below them. And then so now you've got these 10 women elevated in their status, competing for the top 2 or 3 men, which then creates negative incentive, because this 1 or 2 or 3 men are getting so much attention that they're going to be more likely to avoid commitment. And then so now, with all that value created, you just kind of screw yourself. You've forced yourself into a scenario where what you want is no longer available and at high competition. What if you took half of that effort and you did something that from our cultural perspective, is like, oh, that's gross. Why would you act or behave in such a way? Because you know what you want, right? And as a woman, you might want security, you want love, someone to act in a certain way, but you're not considering what you're giving them. So if you thought to yourself, man, I'm going to do something like take his shoes off, or I'm going to meet him at the door and I'm going to hug him, and I'm doing it purely for him in this moment, because I know how much it means to him. So that way, when now it comes down to whether or not they're going to accept or try to help me feel better about myself, I'm not demanding it. I'm not saying, okay, it's me or the highway. This is the scenario, right? A direct connection. If you see where a lot of men are wanting to date less of the urban kind of, not necessarily black women in their skin color, but that kind of culture that's around it, where it's a little bit more energy and aggressive, and they're like, I'm a strong woman and I don't need no help from a man. It's me or this, and there's no kind of give. Well, when there's options on the table, right? When these women want high, they want high level, high quality men. High quality men have access to more high quality women. And if you're making it more difficult, you're not
Right.
giving.
Mhm.
Why would they give to you? I
Right.
went a little running off there deep, but you see how something like that could ultimately it's to build their dream, their incentive up. But sometimes it's too painful to hear something like that. Their whole thing might have been just fighting this idea they have in their mind, this feeling. And if I just come in and start trying to help them like that, it's too much. And so,
What for me at least, Anthony, I thank you so much for sharing that, and we're going to close out the call here in a second. We got to get ready to go pick up my wife from work. Um, is again, I'm not going to push anybody to go somewhere that number one they know in their heart and heart that they can't go, or in my heart of hearts I know I couldn't go there with them, or I wouldn't do it myself. That's number one. Number two, like you said, we really should do everything in the furtherance of our opportunities, of creating more value, creating more insight, creating more potential, creating an environment of not only the one that we love, that maybe others will love, and they just simply see it. We don't have to convince them. We don't have to manipulate them. We don't have to do anything else. We just have to, again, simply just show up. But the thing about it is, though, Anthony, especially from a context of being a connection connector or connection collector, is when people do show up in your world, what are you going to do with them when they show up? Are you going to actually truly engage, truly know who they really are, where they see themselves not only in their own world, but in the world of you and everything? And by doing that and understanding the kind of lay of the land and saying, hey, this great architect here, he's a great guy. You need to talk to this guy because the guy knows what he knows. But maybe those people don't want to be an architect. That's okay. Maybe, like you said, there might be that shingles guy. They want to lay shingles all day long. That's fine. But then again, if you give people the freedom to choose the way that they want to go and how they want to go about it, we can help show a path, but we can't mandate that path for them. We
no,
can't do that.
no.
But what we can do though is can say, hey, this is the potential of what you could do. But then again, it's not the only potential that you could do. There's so many other different ways to do it. So it's about creating that for them in a way that where, again, like John C. Maxwell says, not only a leader shows the way, but he knows the way. And far be it to me, I'm not a guy who knows everything or even know what's going to come tomorrow. I don't even know if I'm going to win the lottery next month. I don't know. But I just know that if I just show up as who I am day in and day out, and this is who you get no matter what, then people are going to be more receptive to that because then again, to me, the pathway to clarity and maybe even the pathway to success, it's not only a singular kind of dynamic, like it's done in an individual kind of dichotomy, but it's also done from a collective community based in unity kind of dynamic as well. Because again, we only know what we know. So
Exactly.
the more that we get to kind of bounce off ideas with each other and everything like that, I totally believe that's a beautiful thing. But Anthony, as always, you're
If
hitting
I could
home.
quickly, if I could quickly add in though, when you're showing them that alternate perspective, it's not to like lead them down a do this or you have to do that. What it is to say, okay, this is the path that I think might be a good option. And from the outside, a lot of times it's just like, no, that looks dark, it looks scary or whatever. They just don't pursue it. And so you think you're bouncing ideas off of someone, but they're not actually able to perceive what it is. What I'm trying to do is drive them to say, okay, I'm gonna take a look at this path, Anthony, but there's no promises. Just walk the path. Like, okay, I walked it. I see where you started, what your intention was. I see where it ended. It's flawed. I don't like it. Whatever it is, I understand your perspective now, your intention. And maybe even now that they understand my path, where I started, where I ended, they can give me better insight. This is
Correct.
crap. This is whatever. So that way I can use my mind to drop another thing on them. And then when they see it, it's not as scary anymore because they know that I'm not trying to lead them into my way of doing things. I just want them to see what I see, so that way when
Correct.
they see it,
Correct.
they can explain to me exactly. Okay, we didn't want to go that way. We prefer this way, and I'll put that back in my mind and add that to the next thing. But
Yeah.
this is important when it comes to the communication between the left and the right hemisphere, the conservative versus the liberal. You have to get past that fight or flight, right? There are certain things that
Correct.
people see, that they hear about or whatever, and it doesn't matter. The brain turns off and you have to respond, and it's a protective mechanism.
Yes.
Happens to me and everyone else.
Yep.
So making sure that I can get them to see, okay, look, based on my actions, based on everything, you see the incentive is, well, it's for you. You are the one that's in control of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you feel a little bit more secure, when I go, aha, look what's inside my toolbox, you won't just run away screaming because you have something, some sort of security there. And so that's kind of where it comes from. It's
Absolutely.
painting that
Absolutely.
picture.
Yeah, absolutely. And see, that is what my main objective and goal with bringing humanity together is just let people show up as who they are, nothing more, nothing less. I'm not going to expect anything from anyone or demand of anyone of anything. I'm just going to just put it out there and let them be who they are. But then again, go
I
ahead.
demand one thing though, that I demand that you try to understand other people. Because if you're not going to try to understand other people, then you're not going to be you're not going to be very
Well, I
useful.
understand that. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Understanding is a big key because, again, if you're not willing to understand, then you can go down the litany of things. Are you willing to listen? Are you willing to objectively take a step back and look at things? Because then again, once you get set in your own ways, and some people are just stubborn that way that they won't move an inch or even a yard, they won't even do that because if they keep themselves in that stagnant place, they will never go nowhere, even though they think they're moving when in reality they're not. So it's about creating that space in place not only for yourself but for others who can say, I am willing not only to jump out of the plane with Anthony, but I know that the parachute that I created, now is it going to work? But he showed me the plans that he's done. But you know what? He said, don't make it like me, make it your own. Do it your own way and everything like that. Yeah, granted, there are some things you kind of have to build in a certain way. That's okay too. But again, it's about creating that flexibility standpoint. And if you can create that flexibility within not only a community structure, but also from a place of agreement and also alignment in tow, I truly believe you not only will have a great and thriving community, but you can even have a great and thriving business. Because again, when everyone's rowing together and flowing together and going in the same direction together, not only for the better, but for the better together, then that's why we can end up doing so many great and amazing things, because there's not one recipe to success. There's not just one toolbox. There are many of them. So when we do that and do that very well together, it's amazing. So I'll let you close out the call, Anthony, because I know you got a call pretty soon coming, because I know I heard that voice message from you earlier, and I'll let you have the last word, sir.
Trust, right? Like what we're doing here is we're building trust, and it's a different path for everyone, right? And so it's gonna be hard for me to trust you if I show up. Oh, you're gone. You still there, Chris? It's gonna be hard for anyone to trust me if I show up and it's something that they've never seen before and they don't see how it helps and they're not willing to listen. If I can get them to see that even if they don't want anything that I have to offer, at the end of the day, they can see that I'm just trying to help them get more of what they want. Then at the end of the day, the incentives are aligned, because everyone's going to have ideas. Everyone's going to be wrong or right about something. The thing is how do you get even the people who are rowing the boat to trust the other people behind them, so they're not always looking back over their shoulder when something changes? How do you get them to feel confident to ask or to open up and express themselves or to consider, like, completely going 360 if they've never seen that happen before, and if seeing it just shows you all of this possible failure, all this fear, but you're not really seeing the reward to it, then you'll lose people there. So that's kind of what it is, right? Once they get going on something which is already there, you can go in and just start as long as you can show a good idea, you can move the tides, right? Like it's not
Yeah, exactly.
unstructured.
As the old adage is so true, rising tides rises all ships. And if you are willing to not only be on that ship with that rising tide occurs, not only will you go to where you want to go, but you can bring more people along with you, because you got to know if you're going to go into that next port, there's going to be another rising tide. So when you leave that port, there's going to be more people on the boat. So it's about creating that for everyone in tow. So great conversation yet again, Anthony. Like I said, can't wait to see you start hosting your own shows here at Bringing Humanity Together. Can't wait that to come to pass. But me and Anthony would love to hear from all of you today. If you watch this live, we would love to hear your thoughts and insights in the comment section, whether it be on YouTube or also on my personal page here on LinkedIn. But again, if you'd like to have more great and engaging conversations like this, please reach out to myself or to Anthony. We would love to hear from you. And even if you're watching this on the replay, please in the comment section, tell us where you're from. Tell us what you liked about it. What's your big takeaways and everything? And we would love to hear from you. So from all of us here at Bringing Humanity Together, have a great day. Make your day. And Anthony will have not only a newsletter here soon, but also a show. So be on the lookout for that. But Anthony, great conversation yet again, sir. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week. You guys have a great day. Make it your day.
All right, have a good one, guys.